Hello, and welcome to another episode of TacoBytes, your Daily Bite of Degen, episode 434.2. SBF takes the stand, end of day review. We went back to lunch. It was a rather quick lunch, only about 45 minutes today. Judge Kaplan is wanting to really try to wrap everything up, but that was in short supply. For those that were taking bets on the over-under of amount of objections today, a total of 46 were counted. And including for those that had a prop bet on sidebars that were rejected, there was one. So it was an interesting day from the prosecution, trying to shut down the defense on a lot of different lines of talking, especially when Sam started to talk about the ways that he was able to get information from Caroline Ellison on the balance sheets and comparing it to data that he might have had in some way, shape, or form. One of the things that they sort of covered via the defense was the different definitions and different teams structures that they sort of continued over from the morning time. One of the things that they sort of covered was FTX marketing and the different aspects of that and why Sam thought that was important and the ROI on that, including breaking down of FTX Arena for the Miami Heat and how they covered into, the Major League Baseball. I guess one of the options that they had when it came to arenas was New Orleans, Kansas City Chiefs, and the Kansas City Royals. And the one thing that he said was that he didn't want to be known as FTX Royals in any way. As he said, nothing against their team. He felt that spending $10 million a year for 17 years for the Miami Heat arena was sort of worth it because they were only spending about 10 to 20% of their total budget in marketing, and that was a equivalent of roughly 1% of what they were bringing in. As they broke down some of the other investments and FTX Investment Corps and where the funds came through and routed, why did it come as loans? One of the big things that was asked was, why did you think you could borrow funds from Alameda? He said, as the founder and as him thinking that it had the funds of almost $8 billion, that he could do that. As we've seen numerous times, that is not the way you're supposed to do things. But one of the things that it seemed like the defense was trying to paint today was a little bit of sympathy for Sam in the aspect that he was just this lone CEO, and he tried to tell people to do things, and they wouldn't do them. And we'll get to that in a second around hedging, but they went through a lot of their different investment pieces too. One of the things that I was a little sad on is as they specifically talked about Solana, and Sam was starting to go into some of the tech reasons of why he likes Solana and invested so much in it. I do know that it is public knowledge how much FTX invested in Solana, but as a reminder, they were able to get in at 20 cents per SOL. So that's a good return in any day. But it was one of the things that he talked about, that he talked with a ton of layer ones and layer twos, and they solely focused on Solana was just because of the long-term tech implementations that was trying to break into and get into of why, but followed by a ton of objections from the prosecution. He wasn't able to get into it because it was considered out of scope and hearsay. But same thing with the real estate. They got into the real estate and why they bought so much property down in the Bahamas, and it was, as he said, part of their incentive program as they were trying to get software dev team build out, that they were taking ex Google and other high-end tech company software devs and incentivize them to be part of the HUT system, as he called it, down in the Bahamas. They then went into the aspect of why he was the public face, and he said that it actually happened by accident. After one or two interviews where he was sort of nervous and didn't think it should be him, he said that they turned out really good. And so from there, that is where it ended up sort of just being his aspect, and on his shoulders. One of the things that they asked was because Caroline had sort of talked about his hair and the way he dressed. It was specifically asked, why were you in t-shirts and shorts all the time? And he answered, just being comfortable. When it came to his hair, he was like, well, I was just sort of lazy and really busy. One of the things that they hopped into was Super Bowl 2020. And the picture of him where he was with Michael Keeves, Katy Perry, Kate Hudson. Oh my gosh, and I forget the other gentleman. Orlando Bloom. That is from the Daily Beast. Thank you. Yes. It's sort of interesting. They left the other three individuals that were in the picture out of who they were, other two individuals. So interesting piece there. But Sam, when asked how did that picture end up being, Sam said it happened by accident, that he was wandering around the stadium after missing a meeting and was invited in, and he had just met Michael Keeves a few days ago. Then they went into political donations, and one of the big things that he said there is he felt that he could have a significant contribution, especially around pandemic prevention and future policy, as well as policy and regulatory policy, and that he felt that he could make a difference. This was one of those things where he always also talked about, when he got to a certain level of income, that he would just donate it all. I guess he never reached that number. Or if he did, all of that donations were customer funds. I don't know. That was a low blow on my part. Probably not true. But one of the things there that they did sort of cover on each topic was communications that he had with others, where he was either taking it was painted that he was trying to take direction from others and do what others said. Especially, when it came to political donations, that funds came as loans from Alameda Research, especially with his younger brothers, Super PAC, Guardians Against the Pandemic. They did not mention Gabe, but they did bring up Michael Sandowski again. One of the things that we didn't hear a lot about was more about Dan Friedberg, though he was a huge topic of conversation yesterday. One of the things, though, he did touch on was that his primary goal was around crypto regulation and FTX being part of that regulation, because FTX US and FTX division was attempting to build a futures market here in the US and combine them into one, and so trying to fit into regulatory compliance. We all know how that sort of turned out. Then talked about the 3 times that he testified on the Hill, 2 times with the Agricultural Committee, and that was covered again. Because why was it agricultural? And that's because they oversee the CFTC. One of the things where he first talked about in 2021, and when he testified in the front of the House, he said that he had turned down the first request, actually, and the second request was a more strongly worded one. Then they sort of went into, the government policy side of things with Mark Wiegand and Zach Dexter. One of the things then, as a bunch of objections came in a very short amount of time, Cohen was sort of dubbed the master class. It was a master class of clock chewing, as one of the amazing people in the courtroom sort of side noted. That's when they then sort of got into FTX hack and moving balances over to Alameda. And when I say hack, it is wrong. Misuse of their margin position system with MobileCoin and BTMX. Where the liquidity was so low on BTMX that it was able to be pushed up almost 1,000% in a week's time, and that one account was specifically using it to borrow USD and BTC. But because, and then initially it was said that Ryan Salome, Gary, and Nishad brought this to Sam's attention. Sam sort of brought it under his own purview. He said that the reason why he moved it over to Alameda is because that way he said he could have a better control on it a little bit, and he wanted to take it on as his own little pet project. He said that FTX was not taking on assets or debts, but they were passed on to trading firms, and in this case, Alameda, because he wanted to take a personal interest in it. And then this is when a moment the judge had him define illiquid tokens. Then once again, we moved over back into Slack and signal defining and why the team used that, why the company used that. And then went into encryption, and Sam, for a brief moment, got to talk about World War II. And then the difference between signal encryption with P2P. There was a really, this is just going on how long the day was with, for everyone. But the prosecution then objected and just, literally said, we. That's all we're hearing. And Sam then classified that, he, without saying he was talking in third person, stating that he was using the term we to not single out any specific employee, and that was something that he sort of had ingrained in him. Then they brought down, to the official business records for the data retention policy, break down his understanding that he saw and reviewed it and was following by it. Outside investors, including Series B, Series B1, and Series C. Binance, in early 2021. The late 2021 Series B1, so raising almost 1.5 billion. Then in the Series another $1 billion was invested as well. Then they sort of talked about, their data room and what they were using there, as well as, who he had for investor relations and who updated the documents there. From Nishad Jayesh, Brett Harrison, the president of FTX US, Zach Dexter, and then from legal, Kansun and Dan Friedberg. Then we took a quick break, returning at 3:11. That's when we then talked about market dropping down in May of 2022, with Bitcoin dropping from first 40K to 30K and then 30K to 20K, due to the Terra Luna depeg. Then we talked a little bit about Three Arrows Capital, with a bunch of objections because the defense was attempting to get Sam to sort of say, like, if the market hadn't gone down, would this company have gone down, and sort of bringing that terminology that it wasn't really everyone else's fault, but an uncontrollable like market. So prosecution sort of objected to all of that, because it was asking for hearsay, what he heard others or what he assumed out of the market. Alameda then came in, where they were showing that they were 21 billion market valuation in late 2020, and then that dropped all the way down to 10 billion by the end of July. This is where they started talking about hedging, and where Sam was really telling Alameda to start hedging to cover its bets, and he wasn't really getting any responses from that. He was checking in with her, he said every month or so, or every two, with Caroline, and that he wasn't really getting a response from her. We'll talk on that in a second, because it goes back to some of Caroline's documents that were presented during the prosecution's case. Then went into five key topics that Sam sort of laid out a plan on why, how to cover some of this market valuation drop, and that included FTX to raise equity, invest less in investments, sell more FTT, looking to get shorter, meaning selling more tokens, selling what they had on their asset sheets, or what else they could sell. One of the things that when went back to hedging, that if if they had hedged, they could have been in that position of a 2 billion plus, he thinks, to counter it, but did not. And then we jumped over to June of 2022, when Caroline came to the Bahama Hut and to talk about Alameda Research going bankrupt. This was a meeting between Nishad, Gary, Caroline, Andrea, and Sam, and this is where they found that accounting bug for account number 9, where there was not enough assets were being deleted from that. We covered that in week 1 with Caroline. Once that was sort of the solution was found within that bug within a few hours, numbers, one of the things that had happened during that, Sam had canceled a trip to DC because he was supposed to go meet with politicians, but felt that if Alameda was facing bankruptcy or there was an error, that he shouldn't be going and doing that. Once they found out about the bug, it said was now instead of $8 million in the hole, they were actually $8 million positive, roughly. And Sam then said that since Alameda was now 8 billion plus, and others confirmed, Caroline suggested sending both the balance to investors as well as sending payments back to lenders. Sam sort of laid out, the defense had Sam lay out that it was Caroline that said, to sending out both these investor payment pieces or loan payment pieces, as well as the false documents back to investors. This is where Sam sort of then talked about where he was then looking at overhauling the entire banking and accounting system, including bank deposits. And this was that North Dimension piece that we talked about yesterday. Sidebar was then rejected. And then a bunch more objections were laid out. June, when Sam sort of started getting the inkling of new issues, we hopped back to view and went back in time to June 2022. And this is where he says that he learned first about the fiat accounts. He did not know of the account liability, but then confirmed via his own data, via the database that he got access to in October of 2022, because the devs made a Google version. And he was going to explain the reason why they made a Google version, but there was enough objections that it sort of shut the defense down. So they finally got out in October. That's when he learned and found out about this new fiat account as well as a Sassoon account, and that it was different from the info ad account that he knew about it. Then talked a little bit about Paper Bird and how Sam had equity in FTX that he had pledged, that he was willing to then pledge back to Alameda to counter this. Went back a little bit into the ultimate balance sheet, of talking about the 15 to 10 billion that Alameda Research had in loans, and that once again Sam brought up hedging and that he had talked with Caroline about it. This is when the defense then brought up Caroline Ellison's work notes, where the titled things Sam is freaking out about, and number 1 was hedging. They did a quick piece on that where they showcased that, and then showed off Sam's memo about shutting down Alameda Research that he had sent to Gary and Nishad. And the others disagreed, is what he said from that turnout, with his opening statement that would lose more to estimated value with him not at the helm than it would ever make. Based off of the outcomes of Caroline, that's sort of what he was sort of laying blame at her feet for. Now in November, went and talked about the conversation that Nishad had talked about on November 6th on the deck of Orchid 6. Nishad talked about the things that Nishad was concerned about, liabilities. He said he didn't know what to do. He threw out a few numbers of around 8 billion, Sam said, on top of liability. Nishad was concerned with brand marketing and K5 and maybe overspending. And at the same time, Nishad, 3 days before, spent $3.1 million on a house that he had borrowed from Alameda with the understanding that he might not have to pay it back. So knowing it was coming as customer funds, still taking $3.1 million he wanted to go buy his own house. And then his girlfriend at the same time, Claire Watanabe, was reviewing the marketing team. Sam said it was a little bit of a mess. And this is when the defense then wanted to start talking about the code base, but then they said that, hey, let's call it a day, and we will finish Monday, as always. And at this time, the defense feels that they will be finishing by 11:30 a.m. Sassoon, when asked by the judge how long, what kind of cross they expect, and she had her zinger that she expected a significant cross, Your Honor, of SBF. And so they said that they should be done by midday Tuesday. Then a rebuttal case, 2 hours each, bringing us possibly to end of day Tuesday. With closing, both prosecution and defense says that their closing should take 2 to 3 hours. Who knows how long with the charge conference. The jury may get the case Thursday or Friday, or the prosecution said even possibly Monday. Right now, the judge is planning for us to sit on Friday, so it will be a full week as well. That is it. Those are the hot takes. Those are all the bites. We want to thank everyone for hopping in and listening, and we hope you all have a great day. As always, have fun. Amazing people. I just want to take a quick second. If you are making any random tweets today, please use the hashtag #FreeEvan. Evan is the journal reporter who has been imprisoned in Russia since March, and keeps having his court date pushed back by 6 months. And so please use the hashtag #FreeEvan if you get a chance. A little bit of solidarity might go a long way in helping out other press that are locked up around the world for just trying to write about what's going on. Thank you so much for hopping in. And as always, we end with two things. Our words of wisdom and the best worst knock-knock joke on the face of the planet. Closed mouth cannot be fed, and you cannot feed a closed mouth, meaning if no one knows you're looking for opportunity, opportunity can never come a knocking. If opportunity does come a knocking and no one answers, it is going to keep on walking. And with that, we end with the greatest worst knock-knock joke on the entire world. I want to thank everyone on Rumble. Huge shout out to Jenna for joining us on YouTube. We see you. Everyone on Rumble, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, Telegram, Discord, and LinkedIn, as well as out to the entire Unlonely family. Thank you for joining us today. But closed mouth cannot be fed, and you cannot feed a closed mouth, meaning if no one knows you're looking for opportunity, opportunity can never come a knocking. If opportunity does come a knocking and no one answers, it's going to keep on walking. With that, we end with the greatest worst knock-knock joke on the face of the planet. As we've ended 434 episodes, we will continue. But knock-knock, who's there?